All right. Oh, gotta click my, yep, got it. All right. Did you want to start off or do you want me to just jump right on in?
I'm going to introduce myself very quickly. Hello, my name is Dr. Audrey Baca Lopez. I am the program specialist with our EDD program, and I welcome you all here tonight so that way you can learn a little bit more about the CSU Apply application process. So while you may have joined an information session, this one is specific to the actual application. And if you have any questions regarding the program itself, I'm happy to take those at the end. And I'll share a follow-up email if you have any additional information or questions you'd like to clarify. So that way we can address those specific to your situation. So thank you all again for being here. We have April Lane of Graduate Studies. She is the Graduate Studies Coordinator. Yes.
Graduate Student Resource Specialist.
Excuse me, Graduate Student Resource Specialist.
That's okay.
Who is an exceptional resource for you as graduate students, or will be. Go ahead.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm working with two screens here, one laptop and one giant screen, so it's kind of awkward. So if I'm looking around, I really am paying attention to what I'm doing. So real quick, before I jump in, I'm going to share a few resources that will come in handy. Actually, Audrey, I'm going to share these with you. Let's see. We'll get a start here. I'm just going to share them. Actually, Audrey, I'm just going to email you this real quick. So just bear with me a second. I got all flustered now that my supervisor called. So bear with me just a second here. And now everything's not wanting to work. Don't you love technology?
Always happens, never fails.
Okay. All right. I need some like background music. Okay, so I'm just, whatever you find to be helpful in that form that I just sent you, if you would periodically share, that would be super helpful. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And if somebody can just let me know if you can see my screen, that'd be great.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect.
Your hair got very long.
That's me pre-COVID hair. I need to get a new photo. So yeah, so anyway, I'm the Graduate Student Resource Specialist. A huge part of my role is, and I have a little motto now, is that the application should not be the hardest part of going to grad school or getting your EDD. So that's kind of how I found this niche. So you can definitely reach out to me, and Audrey, if you could drop that into the chat, that'd be helpful. I do have office hours. If one has to be canceled, you'll see it here, but otherwise you can just jump into a Zoom session with me anytime from noon to 1 on Monday or 4 to 5 on Tuesday. And we do have a ton of application workshops coming up, and every Friday I have a drop-in application assistance hour. So feel free to take advantage of those. You can find these on the Prospective Students link on our Graduate Studies website. And I can actually go ahead and drop that into the chat so y'all have it. And maybe I can't because now I can't see my chat. I'll make sure I get it dropped in. But we have a bunch of upcoming workshops. But right now I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the Cal State Apply application. Easiest way to get here is come right over to this green button on our Graduate Studies page and click Apply Now. Scrolling down, a lot of this application information, because this is a CSU system-wide application, it's going to apply to undergraduates and graduate students, pretty much everybody that's applying to the CSU. So if you see dates and deadlines up here, please ignore them. Just pay attention to your program. So when you come down here, you can select the term that you're going to apply for. And we're selecting fall 2022. Oh, and great. Thank you for dropping that in there. Now I can see the chat again. All right, so I have already created my account, but if you haven't created an account, that will be the first thing you need to do. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's done that a few hundred times at least. So I'm not going to go too much into doing that. I am going to touch on, though, when you first create your account, I already have an application started. So it's going to look a little bit different the first time you go in. So you'll have to create your profile, which is your basic information and creating your username and password. But what you want to make sure when you're selecting or setting up your profile is your extended profile. This is how you're going to find your program. So you want to make sure that you're selecting second bachelor's degree and beyond, and that you're selecting graduate. And because I usually do this as all types of post-baccalaureate application workshop, but for this one specifically, you'll want to select the graduate, and you'll see the doctoral application in there.
Excuse me, April, can you zoom in a little bit on your screen?
Sure. Whoops. Wait, here we go. Ooh, really zoomed in.
Thank you.
Okay, can you see it now? Okay, perfect. All right, so selecting graduate. When you get to the second part of the extended profile, it's asking if you're returning. And the first time I tried this, I'm like, well, yeah, I'd be returning because I got my undergrad or my master's at CSUSB. That's not what it's asking. It's asking if you're coming back to complete the same degree. And I don't know anybody that's done that. I'm not quite sure what that's about, but make sure you select no, so you'll be able to see all of the programs that are available. And you can find the EDD program easily. You'll want to complete your military status. And then if you're an international applicant, you'll want to select yes. If no, selecting no, and then selecting the state that you regard as your permanent home, and then saving all of the changes. I didn't make any change, so nothing's going to show here. Once you have completed your extended profile, it'll look a little different the first time you go in. I'm just going to make this just a tad smaller. There we go. So right now, when you select add program, you're going to see all of the programs at all of the different campuses based on how you completed your extended profile. So we can narrow this down quite a bit. So if you type in San Bernardino, it's going to show pretty much everything that's at our San Bernardino campus, but I can narrow it down even more and just typing in the first couple of letters of education. And then I can scroll on down here, find the program that I'm wanting to apply to. And I had already previously, before we started the workshop, selected the community college specialization, EDD program. So when you're ready, I already have it selected, but it would have a plus, and you would select that, and then it will give you a green check. So now you know that you're ready to begin your application. You navigate through your application. You can change programs here. You can submit your application when it's ready to go, and then also check the status after it's been submitted. So I've selected my program. Now I'm going to go over into my actual application. So this is going to, these three sections are going to be the same no matter what program you're applying to, or I think there's two EDD programs, so I'm going to focus on those. So whether you're applying to the K through 12 or the community college, personal information, academic history, and supporting information is always going to be the same. It's your program materials that are going to look different. So I'm just going to walk you through this quadrant by quadrant, but you don't need to complete it in any specific order. So when you're completing your personal information, most of this is, this is all basically relevant to you. So pretty basic questions that you will need to respond to, but I do want to touch on the financial and the parental information. As I mentioned before, this is a CSU system-wide application. It's used for undergraduate applicants, master's, credential, and doctoral applicants. So part of the CSU application is that undergraduate applicants are able to apply for a need-based fee waiver right here in the application. Unfortunately, post-baccalaureate applicants are not able to apply for that fee waiver within the application. If you have a significant financial need and you're not one of the fee waiver recipients in tonight's workshop, you can definitely reach out to the Office of Graduate Studies. It's grad admissions with an S at CSUSB.edu and request a fee waiver. If a fee waiver form, fill it out, return it to the grad admissions office, and then they'll review it. And if eligible, they'll send you a fee waiver code. So when you're completing this, since it's not going to apply to you as a EDD applicant, fill this out to the best of your ability. We probably all have our tax forms out in some way at this point, but you don't need to like be perfect on this. You can use your best estimate. It's not going to be used for any kind of an in-application fee waiver. It's not going to be used for any kind of financial aid, eligibility, scholarships, any kind of fellowships or anything. It's not going to be used for anything. This is just used for undergraduates to request a fee waiver. So use your best estimate when filling it out. And then when it's completed, you can go ahead and then move on. I made some changes today, so it's asking me to review everything. So I'm going to go back to my application. The main part. You can always navigate back to the 4 quadrants by just clicking on the My Application.
April? Yes.
So
it's perfectly fine to leave the incomes for parents as 0 for both of those that you were showing us earlier, right?
If that's fairly accurate.
Oh, I'm just saying because I'm a grown person. I mean, my parents wouldn't have anything to do with me at this point. So,
yeah, it depends because right now I have dependent, but if I selected independent, it would ask different questions.
Okay, perfect. That makes more sense.
It just depends on how the radio button's selected. I don't know why that was selected, but yeah. So if this was, I mean, you could put, whatever your estimated income is, but basically none of this is going to affect anything you're applying to, but because there's red asterisks next to it, it has to be completed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I just don't want people to have to go digging in their files. Like right now it's around tax time, so we probably have all that out. But if it's, the middle of the year, we might be having to dig for things. So it doesn't need to be 100% accurate because it's not going to be looked at. So when you get through personal information, there's 7 sections. Once all 7 sections are completed, the green, well, it'll look like the supporting information section. Any questions on personal information before I move through there? Or over to this academics? I don't see anything in the chat. Let's see. All right. So moving on into academic history, there's 3 sections in here that need to be completed. First section is colleges attended. Now, the application states that you must report all colleges and institutions attended regardless of their relevance to the programs you're applying to and whether the coursework completed there was already transferred to another institution. And Audrey, correct me if I'm wrong, and I always put this out at the multi-program information sessions that people attend. If you went to a community college, say 15 years ago, and you took a class for self-fulfillment, say you took a weight training class, I personally wouldn't necessarily put that in.
Absolutely. You're not required. What we are looking for is the bachelor's information, the master's, and not to discredit community colleges. They are such an important part of what our doctoral students do. We have quite a number of them who've gone through the community colleges, but to save you a little bit of time on this application process, you're welcome to not include if you attended a community college. We would like to see that though, if you could add that to your CV or your resume.
Perfect. Good to know. Thank you. So in this instance, I only included relevant information for this program. The Crafton Hills College wouldn't have been necessary, but I did go ahead and include it as the community college where the transfer courses that came over to Cal State San Bernardino. Then after this, and this is Joe Coyote. So after Joe Coyote completed their bachelor's degree, they went on and did their things, but they also went to Loma Linda University and took a class or two just for personal fulfillment. So that is technically filling, so it's a little bit different based on what Audrey said, but you want to make sure at least that you have for this program, the bachelor's granting institution, and then your last institution attended. Also, if you took graduate level coursework at an institution after receiving your bachelor's or master's degree in this instance, you would, you'd want to include that as well.
Absolutely. If you had started another doctoral program at a different institution, we would want to know what courses you took there, because you could transfer up to, I want to say 9 units. I'll confirm that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So once you have all your colleges entered, there's 2 more sections that need to be completed. So for standardized tests, and I've already indicated that I'm not adding standardized tests, and it will never go back to what it looked like before I did it the first time. But anything you include on here, and I'm going to go back and say it again, this is a system-wide application for all different levels. Undergraduate applicants are admitted on self-reported information. So it's important that undergraduates self-report their standardized tests. So they would need to complete it. But because we are not doing an undergraduate application, all you would need to do is select the box that says, I'm not adding any standardized tests. And then when it will complete this section.
I would like to add that we have waived our GRE application for this year. And as a matter of fact, we are actually doing away with the GRE as an application requirement for our doctoral program moving forward.
That's really good news. That's so
it's
awesome.
A barrier. It's a systemic barrier.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. All right, so moving on to GPA entry. So once again, because this is a system-wide application, undergraduates need to report their self-reported GPA. So I have completed 2 of them, but I left the Loma Linda blank. So the first time, say you came in here, you inputted 3 schools. The first time you come in, they're all going to be gray with no check mark. So what you will want to do is for every school, you're going to select add GPA. And then you don't have a GPA to add. So that's all you need to do for any of the schools, because the reason I'm saying that is because in the program materials section, you're going to include unofficial transcripts. And I'll explain that a little bit more when we get to that next section. But in here, there's no need to input any kind of GPA. If you call me and ask me how to do it, I won't know, because we don't do it for any of our post-baccalaureate students. So any questions on that? Usually a question comes up.
Yeah, April, I just want to clarify. You're saying for your bachelor's degree and then also your master's degree, you do not have to input a GPA for this section.
That's correct.
Okay.
Just say I don't have a GPA to add.
Okay.
I don't have a GPA to add, and then complete that. Because this is, once again, that self-reported for undergraduate applicants. We've just come up with workarounds to get through the application to allow us to get it through quickly, but it's not reviewed if people put their GPA in for each school. It will be reviewed in the program materials section.
Just to follow up, we do allow for nine units of transfer from doctoral level courses only. And that if you do use that, then you would need to provide official transcripts and course syllabi to our doctoral program offices.
Perfect. Thank you.
Audrey, I guess I'll ask this at the very end. You can answer at the very end, but I just don't want to forget. Do a lot of people transfer out of doctoral programs?
No, but we've had a couple actually this past year that started in a different program that wasn't quite right for her, and she came right over to us.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. So any questions on colleges, standardized tests, or GPA entries? I don't see anything in the chat. So, all right. Going to go ahead and move. This one goes quick, supporting information. Now, my understanding that this program is not asking for any kind of supporting information to be added here?
None. So we're going to have you include the information in the required documents. So you do not have to spend your time filling this out.
Yeah, because otherwise you have to go through and select and go through all that. So, and it, once again, program materials is where everything's going to go. So once you indicate, and this is another section that once I've clicked on, I'm not adding any experiences. It won't ever look that way again. So the first time you come in here, just indicate that you're not adding any experiences. It will complete it, and then you can move on. All right, so this is probably the biggest part of the application that needs to be completed. I do just want to give a reminder, make sure that when you're starting this part of the application that you are applying to the program that you want to apply to, because I'll explain why in the next tab. But make sure, so educational leadership, community college specialization, that's the program I want. The program deadline is right over here if you have any questions. So you still got some time to apply. This first tab, it contains information about the program, important information. So making sure that you read through this. Audrey's contact information is here, and then we have program coordinator contact information is here, along with other contacts within the EDD program. The second question, in both of the EDD programs will have a question in here. This first one is basically just acknowledging that once you're admitted and you've made that decision to come to Cal State San Bernardino for your program, that you're going to get all of your required official transcripts to us by July 29th of 2022. So this basically means your application will be reviewed. You can be admitted. You can even register for classes, all on your unofficial transcripts. But until you get those official transcripts, all required official transcripts in, and they get processed because there is human intervention involved, you, as soon as you've made that decision, get those in, because if you've applied for any kind of funding or loans or anything, it will not be released until your application's complete with those transcripts, those official transcripts.
I'm going to repeat that one more time because that's been an issue with some of our students, and I do not want you to miss out on the financial aid. Much of our doctoral program, many of our doctoral students take advantage of direct loans. And these loans can be withheld if we do not receive your official transcripts once you've been accepted to our program. Please make a big star on whatever calendar you need to do to send in your official transcripts, and we'll remind you along the process. But this is just the introduction to it. So it can hold you up with your financial aid, which is very challenging. So please make aware of that, make note of that.
Yes, and by getting them in by this July 29th date, it does give our office time to process them and get them in, and you'll be good to go. And then your financial aid, if there's any loans or anything, will be released. So basically all you need to do is initial here. There's another question about the interview requirement for the program, making sure that you will be scheduling that interview, and then you'll want to initial here as well. So once those are completed, I'll save and continue. Now, just kind of going back to what I had mentioned before, just completing that section. If I had decided, oh, I wanted to do the K through 12, if I go back and I change that program, it's going to wipe out anything I include here. So just making sure that you're selecting the program that you do want to apply to. If that happens, it happens. You'll just need to make sure that if you do that, you're going to need to resubmit documents and answer these questions again. It also wipes out any recommendation requests that you've sent. So for documents for this program, they have it very clearly labeled too. This program is really nicely set up on here. I have to commend you guys for that. So a current curriculum vitae, a resume. So you want to make sure you have that, your future directions essay, and pay attention and be mindful of the length of the required document. So make sure it's 2 to 3 pages. And your scholarly writing example, the unofficial copy of the GRE, but it's been waived and it seems like it will no longer be a thing. So that's awesome. Your unofficial transcript or transcripts, And if you are, say you went and you did your undergraduate degree at CSUSB and then got your master's at CSUSB, I'll show you a workaround for that when I get to the transcript upload slot. So you'll want to make sure that you have that unofficial transcript from where you got your undergraduate degree and then your master's degree as well. So, and then any other schools that may apply to you. There are some document stipulations, and you'll just want to make sure they don't, the photos of transcripts are not easily read, so it will have to be preferably a PDF file. So these are very clearly marked, and in order to submit your application, you'll have to upload the CV or resume, the essay, the writing sample, and then the unofficial transcript. But if you are an alumni of CSUSB, got your master's here, say, and your undergrad here, we don't need you to upload a transcript because we already have it on file, but it is required to get through the application. So a very simple workaround is to select Add Document, choose File, and I have it right here. Uploaded document as a placeholder. I have it named. My transcripts are already on file. Upload the document, and now it's completed that section. So don't worry about getting us that unofficial CSUSB transcript because we already do have it. If you have, and what all I put in here basically was my transcripts are already on file. If you know your Coyote ID number, go ahead and include it. There's additional slots to upload additional transcripts. If there's additional transcripts that need to be submitted and you've run out of room, you can email those to gradadmissions@csusb.edu. And once your application's submitted, they'll be attached to it as well. If you're uploading any test scores, you have a section here that upload them, but they're not required to submit the application. All right, so I covered a lot of information, but this is so well outlined, it's pretty self-explanatory. So any questions? And thank you, Audrey, for putting that in there. And I think you answered any of the other questions that came through. So
I just wanted to address some of the questions verbally, so as well, so just in case when we do our recording for
sure.
later. So two of the questions that came through, the first one was the interview component. So once all this is submitted, we will review in early May. And then those that are selected will be invited for an interview. The interview will be via Zoom. The second question was about the length of the future directions essay. And 2 to 3 pages can either be single spaced or double spaced, depending on how you write. It can be MLA formatted or APA formatted. I myself was an MLA format person with my master's in rhetoric and composition, and I had to learn APA. So it can be either, and that's perfectly acceptable, or any other citation form.
Awesome. That's a question we get pretty often in our other Cal State Apply workshops. Is like, what format do you want? So that's good to know. Well, thank you.
Whatever your heart desires, as long as we get a response.
All right, so any questions about any of the documents that are required, uploading documents, transcripts, anything?
April, since you said that if any of our transcripts are already available at CSUSB, just go ahead and put that placeholder in. But is there, after that action has been completed, is there anything else that we need to do on our end, or that's it?
For transcripts?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay.
No, as long as if you have transcripts from other institutions, you'll want to make sure to include those. But as far as CSUSB transcripts, the application will come in, it'll be processed by our office within a few days. And then usually, depending on kind of how many applications we're getting, sometimes we're heavier in the number of apps that we get. But usually within a few days, your application, if you just have CSUSB, for example, your application will show complete. And it'll, because the transcripts will already be indicated as having been received.
To follow up with that, so that would cover the official transcripts as well. So if you went through your whole bachelor's, master's and are working towards your doctoral degree, that there's no need to send in official transcripts if you attended CSUSB through those other programs.
Correct.
Beautiful.
As long as there's CSUSB transcripts, we've got them.
Okay, but any other institution must be sent in officially by July 29th. Was that what it was?
What was the date? July 29th. Mhm.
July 29th. Thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to jump over to the recommendations section. So this program does require 3 letters of recommendation, and they must be confidential. I think I just saw it. Did I see it say confidential in here, or did I think that I just...
No, you are correct. It is
Okay.
confidential because it is a link, and it's read at the top. 3 confidential recommendation evaluation.
Oh,
So
there
not-
we go. Yeah, it was like, I know I saw confidential here somewhere, and I'm like, where did I see it? Because now I can't find it. Okay.
Absolutely. A little bit different than a formal letter. It is an evaluation. So go ahead and explain.
Yeah, absolutely. So they are due by May 8th. So just be mindful of the date that the recommendation evaluations are due. So in this, we have another couple programs that have something similar to this. So, and this will make sense in just a minute. So just read through the instructions, be mindful of that date. So what you're going to do is you're going to copy and paste. Now we found out that there's a character limit. So if you copy and paste this whole thing, it's not going to show up, but the website address is in here. So just copy and paste this part of the text, and you're going to paste it into the next section. And you're going to want to let your recommenders know to check their spam, check their junk, check their trash, because sometimes they do get filtered out. And Audrey, I did include in that form, or in the document that I sent you, what the email is going to look like, where it's going to come from, and who it's going to come from, the subject and where it's coming from. Because if your recommenders are anything like probably most of us on campus, who get hundreds of emails and things get buried very, very easily. Let's see. So when you select, and I didn't really say what I did, but when you come down here to select your first recommendation, there's just instructions on here for you. I copied and pasted, so I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that into the comments. And then I'm just going to select a recommender. I'm going to use my colleague, Megan. As you can see, I use her a lot, so she'll know what this is for. So May 8th is the deadline, but what I would suggest doing is giving them a date a little bit earlier than that. Perhaps we'll just say April 11th. So that gives them plenty of time. And you want to make sure you're balancing that you're not just telling your recommender, hey, I need this at this very last minute. Most recommenders are not thrilled with that. I know I've had former students ask for letters of recommendation on a Friday at noon, and I say, hey, you know, when do you need it by? And they're like, oh, 5 p.m. today. So not really the best option. So make sure you're giving your recommender plenty of time to complete this form. So since it has to be confidential, go ahead and waive your right to access the recommendation. Otherwise, if it wasn't necessarily confidential, I would say it's your choice, but because it said in the instructions that it needs to be confidential, go ahead and select yes. You need to give permission for contacting the recommenders and for the schools to contact the recommenders. Once that's complete, you're going to go ahead and send it. And then you'll be able to scroll down here and you can see that I sent my colleague Megan Canali a request for this letter of recommendation, which is really an evaluation, and that it's requested today. And then I would go through that 2 more times. So you want to make sure, and let's just see. Oh, that's perfect. So the subject is going to be applicant recommendation request, and it's going to be from Cal State Apply at liaisonscas.com.
Audrey, I know the minimum requirement is 3, but is there any prohibition of us putting more, or no, or it's frowned upon?
You know, I actually haven't tested it out to see if you can add more than 3.
It's
Oh.
only going to let you
I think it may only allow 3 because that's what we determined in our And you can do follow-up emails. If someone doesn't respond, you can actually delete the request and resend it. Say you decided you didn't want to use that recommender, and you
Okay.
wanted to resend to someone else, you would come in here and you see where it says delete, where
Yeah.
April's,
Or
right?
edit. Yeah.
You could
But
delete
the
or edit.
maximum is 3. It's not like, I can have 5.
It
for
won't
example.
allow you to.
Yeah, total allowed is 3. Yeah.
And I actually facilitate a requesting letters of recommendation workshop. And, if the program asks for 3, I say, probably 4, maybe if you want to submit 4, but you have to be mindful of the recommender's time. Because if they're getting 30 applicants that they need to look at and you're sending 4, 5, 6 letters of recommendation, your committees are going to have to take a look at those. But this will allow 3, and there's 3 required. So, and yeah, you brought up a good question, is that, say for instance, I find out later that Megan's no longer available. She may be on sabbatical. She doesn't have internet access, and there's no way she's going to be able to write this for me. Even after I submit the application, I can come in here and I can delete. I've tried using the edit function. It doesn't seem to really work well. So, but what I can do is, so I find out Megan can no longer be my recommender. I've submitted the application. Now what do? I can come in and I can actually delete Megan, and then I can put in a request for another recommender. Now Megan just got an email saying that I'm no longer asking for her as my recommender. So just be mindful that the person you did ask and now you're not asking is going to get an email letting them know. Any question about recommendations?
So Ms. Alma had a question regarding examples of strong versus recommenders versus not so strong. On our CSU EDD admissions page, I do have this document available for you, and you can access it here as well, and what I just shared in the chat. If you want to click on it, April, that would be really helpful, so that we don't have to stop sharing screen.
There we go.
And what this is an overview of what you've seen right there, but it'll also at the bottom of this document.
Well, that all got big, but
you'll see an excerpt basically of what your evaluator receives. So there's this excerpt here is the recommendation form, and it shows up similar to a Google form where they can input certain fields, and then there's a sliding scale. So what you would, if you have a conversation with your recommender before, you might want to say excellent or good. And remember, we want their honest evaluation, but they have the option of selecting poor or excellent or not observed on all of these criteria. And then if you look down towards the bottom, there's an open text field. And that's where they can place what we're looking for is particularly, I don't know if we have it listed out in here. So if and it's in the top of this, in the evaluators comment section, please detail relevant information related to my potential. So you want them to share your potential for academic success in the EDD program, and take into consideration any relevant work, professional or personal experiences that align with the program mission. The program mission is in there. Now, I had a much longer excerpt that had to get chopped down because of that character limit. So if you want to share that information with them in a separate email and then ask them, you could do that as well.
That's a really good point. And then as part of my letters of recommendation workshop, if at all possible, I say start compiling that list of potential recommenders. If you can, 2 months before an application deadline. And if you have access to this form, which you do, you can share this with individuals when you're compiling that. Say you're compiling your CV, your resume, the program requirements, because you're wanting to approach your recommenders with as much information. You want to help them write a really stellar letter. So you can share this with them so they have an idea of what's coming. Because if they then see this and they're like, oh, this was not really what I'm not able to attest to this applicant's ability, now you're in a little bit of a situation where you've asked for a recommendation, but they may not be able to provide you a stellar a letter of recommendation as they could have, or as somebody else could have. So save this, compile all your information, and if at all possible, reach out to your recommenders well in advance of submitting the request.
I do have to advise you that I just noticed right now that we happen to have 1,000 character limit on this. So it has to be very concise. So give them that heads up front, because I just noticed that myself. And you want them to, you know, spend all this beautiful time working on a letter of recommendation for you, where there is 1,000 character limit on that
it
field.
does it right here too.
And Audrey, you were saying this example that April is showing us here, this is just an excerpt, right? So there's more than just these, I mean, like 10 questions. There's more pages.
No. So this is the same amount of pages, but there's basically it's an email that that April had sent and had mentioned before. You'll receive, your recommender would receive. Do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
No,
I might as well do it
let me stop my share.
Sorry about that, April.
That's okay.
It'll just make it a little bit clearer. And so what you do receive, what the recommender would receive is an email that says this: applicant recommendation request from Cal State Apply, just as April had mentioned. And then you'll see here that this is very generic and brief. Tell them to look for that generic email. They can either create an account or continue without an account. And they'll be taken to the letters portal. And this is what I said, it's kind of like an excerpt of this portal that they would complete the evaluation in here. So if you see, it'll have the date that it was requested, the information that was applied, and then the note that you would paste in, it shows up here. This was just a brief, I just did this as a test run.
The test.
So you can see how it comes as a sliding scale. And here it is 1,000 character limit.
So that's the whole total thing.
This is the whole thing.
Okay.
You can preview and then submit.
Okay.
I'm a big visual person myself. Like, I want to know exactly what happens. So
I was like, is it just really those 18 questions? Because, okay, got it.
Yes, that's all. But again, it is, you do want to give them the heads up for it, right? Like, look for this, limited on the character count. And
yes, because that's not very many pages. That's not very many characters.
It's not. So just to be concise in the leadership, really that's what we're looking for is and leadership comes from all different aspects. It doesn't mean that you have to be the lead teacher or the chair of the department, but if you work with your community, or you do, again, community service, or maybe you're on different organizations and you're like, I'm on a conference planning committee that, I would add on there. Or maybe you're a mentor for someone, ask them to share some of the information like that, those type of leadership skills that we're looking for.
All right, so that pretty much covers the application process. Any questions?
I would like to add the last piece, which is you do have to submit the $70 for the application fee. And if you do not happen to win one of the raffles from here, I would say attend maybe another session with April.
Sign up for as many as you want.
As many as you want to get that fee covered for you. But you do have to pay that fee in order for us to see it on our end, and it's not going to be considered if you don't submit that payment. So
it won't let you submit without the payment. So I did just drop the link to the survey into the chat. So if you can get that completed before 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, I'd appreciate it. It's been a long day, so I'm not going to do too much tonight, but tomorrow morning, and it truly is random. I use an online random number generator. I don't put anybody's email or names or anything in it. I just do a numeric system. And how many participants do we have? Let's see.
We had 7.
7. So, well, that includes us. So 5.
Oh, no, now we did. Well, it depends. Oh, I guess, yeah, they didn't stay for the survey, so.
Yeah, so I can do up to 3. So a fee waiver. So depending on how many complete the survey, you got a pretty good chance of winning. So
And there's
we
also,
really do.
also a session tomorrow, correct? Just in case.
There is a Cal State Apply session tomorrow. So if you don't by chance win tonight, feel free to sign up for another one. Also, and it doesn't really apply for this program because you don't have a personal statement per se, but our Megan Canali is our events coordinator, but she also has double masters in English and writing. So she does a really great presentation on writing a stellar personal statement, but you can apply it to so many areas, not just about a personal statement. So if you'd like to attend that, feel free to, if you don't win tonight, but yeah, and we really do. So when I get those survey results, I don't just look at them and say, yeah, whatever. I actually look at them, and because we want to make sure that we're offering workshops that are helpful, that are timely, that are informative. If there's something I do that you guys actually absolutely cannot stand, you need to let me know because I won't do it if it drives people nuts or whatever it may be. You may have an idea for a workshop that our office may be able to do, or we can find a partner on campus, that we can start thinking about ways to collaborate with other departments. That's how we ended up doing this with the EDD program and a couple other master's programs on campus. So I really do take those workshop satisfaction surveys seriously. So, and then you guys get a pretty nice incentive possibly for completing it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
April, just to clarify, so the raffle, you'll pick the winners and then you'll notify them via email, or how would we know?
Survey winners will get an email tomorrow morning
Mhm.
after I do the random drawing, and you'll get an email with the information on what you need to do to get that application fee waiver code.
And then that code we'll just use when we're actually submitting the application, correct?
When you're going to pay, it will ask if you have a code.
It's like a coupon.
Yeah, it's a coupon code.
Okay, perfect.
Just to make sure that I do have your email, I'm pretty sure it captures it via Zoom, but if not, maybe not. Please go ahead and add that into the chat for me. If you want to send it to just me, that's perfectly fine, but please be sure to send your email to me in the chat before you step out, just in case.
Yeah, and it's a semi-anonymous survey. It does ask for your first name and your email address. So I'll have that.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay.
I do like to have the participants of everybody that attended, so we can follow up. And if for some reason you don't submit your application, we'll, reach out to you to see what's going on and how we can be of assistance.
And April, where can I find the workshop that you were talking about for the personal statement?
Okay, give me just a second. Let me pull that up. Let me share my screen again, because there is some good information on here. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So from our graduate studies website, we do have all of our upcoming events will show up on the side of this page. So if you want to sign up for requesting letters of rec, let me go ahead and just drop our page in here. Okay, so now so my thing disappeared again. I can't put comments in. I'll do it when I stop sharing screen. But to find the actual application workshops, if you hover or actually click on prospective students, our website's going through a revamp. It'll be a little easier to navigate soon. You can come in. These are the application workshops. There's one coming up tomorrow night from 5 to 6:30. There's another one on March 15th. We do them all year long. During the school year, we do at least 2 a month. In the summer, we usually do at least 1 a month. And then I don't do a drawing for this drop-in session from 12:30 to 1:30 on Friday, but if you do have a quick question about your application, this is a great time to drop in and ask your question. And if you click on register, you can actually see all of the upcoming workshops that I've currently got scheduled through the end of May. I just don't put them all on the website at once.
But those are to apply, right? But what about the one that is for the letter?
So the first part of all of these, except for April 28th, will include the personal statement.
Oh, okay.
But
so it'll start off, the meeting will start off with that. Okay.
But I can also share this is what Megan does go over. So let me drop this into the chat. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. Maybe I can get my chat back. Yep. Okay, so I just dropped that in there. That's where you can find the link to Megan's presentation if you're not able to attend.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. And I'll drop the link to the Cal State Applies in there, as well as the office hours. And then on our homepage, we have other upcoming workshops too. And we do have a lot of great events coming up on our event center page. So take some time to peruse through the Office of Graduate Studies page, and there's a lot of great information on there. Any other questions?
Any other questions for me?
Be so
Now,
quiet.
it's been very helpful. Thank you so much. This has been great. And fingers crossed that I'll get chosen for the waiver.
Oh, I hope so, Carrie.
Yeah.
I'd like to give one to everybody. I wish I could, but I'd probably get in trouble if I did. But come to other workshops. If you don't win the fee waiver, come attend another workshop. You
It'll
never
be my pleasure. It'll be my pleasure.
You won't tell. It's on a recorded Zoom, so
I'll stop that recording.
oh, that's funny. Yeah.
No,